We here in the United States tend to have a really hard time understanding the appeal of things like socialism, mostly because we grew up in a country that has embraced capitalism to its fullest extent. We see the benefits that it has brought us, and it's hard for us to look at socialism or other similar concepts in a way that is positive, because we've seen the many examples of socialisms that have failed, and we see the success of capitalism versus the many defeats of socialism. We have a hard time understanding why so many people are attracted to the idea. However, when you set aside the results of either system and you start looking at the ideas of the system, it starts to become really easy to understand why so many people are interested in socialism and why the theoretically ideal version of socialism is actually preferable to something like capitalism. And I'm going to explain that really quick. And I'm going to explain it using a saying that I heard growing up. The world needs ditch diggers. What does that have to do with socialism? The problem with capitalism in general, and I support capitalism as the best system that we have available to us right now. There is no better system that we have available to us based on the way human nature works, based on limited resources. Don't get me wrong. I don't support socialism. However, the reason why socialism is so appealing is because in a capitalist system, excellence is what wins. If you are good at something, you have the best chance of making the most money, which means you have the best chance of rising in society, which means you have the best chance of, having a good life, a secure life, and you are, the ones who are the best at things are the ones that are going to have the best kinds of lives. And if you follow the capitalist mentality, if you follow the idea that excellence deserves the most rewards, then that seems right to you and it seems great to you. But unfortunately, the world needs ditch diggers is a saying that basically says that not everybody can have that. We need people who are going to go out and do all of the manual grunt labor that no one else wants to do. And generally those jobs are going to be filled by people who can't do anything else. And that's a problem, because if you want to have a really good and fulfilling life that has security in it and provides you with sufficient income to be able to live a really nice life, but you don't have the skills that are required to be able to capitalize in a way that allows you to earn that in the kind of capitalist system that we have, then you get left behind. You get left doing all the crappy jobs that no one else wants to do. You get left behind doing the crappy jobs that no one else wants to do that pays you very little. So you end up putting in a lot more effort and sweat equity for a lot less money than somebody who came up with a great idea or is just really good at something that is highly profitable. And if you're at the bottom end of the spectrum looking up at these people who are making all this money for what you perceive to be a minimal amount of effort and time and work, then obviously something like socialism is going to appeal to you. And the problem that we have in the West, which is a primarily capitalist-centric thing, is that especially the people at the top, the people who are so obsessed with whatever it is that they're doing that they can't think about anything else, do not consider the fact that the bottom third of society that lives in abject poverty most of the time looks at them and wish there's a jealousy there. And there's always going to be a jealousy there, because it's hard when you have to spend, so many people are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, working two jobs that are paying the minimum wage, just trying to pay the bills that they have to pay. They're working just as hard as these CEOs who are putting in 60 hours a week, but their time just isn't worth the same, because what they're doing doesn't provide enough benefit to enough people to warrant the kind of money that these massively rich people are getting, because they just happen to get lucky and they have a skill set that's marketable. So while it is absolutely reasonable and valid to say that socialism is a bad idea in practice, the theory of socialism, the theory of, making sure that there's enough to go around for everybody, is absolutely a positive thing. And it's the reason why that particular philosophy survives today. And until the people, until the people who are successful start to really understand that and take it in, and don't just write it off as something that, well, you just need to work harder. Yeah, but it doesn't matter how hard you work if what you know how to do isn't marketable. No amount of working hard is going to make you enough money if all you know how to do is pick up people's trash. If the only skill set you're capable of learning is picking up people's trash. We have to understand that just because you have a reasonable amount of intelligence that has allowed you specifically to go out and do something that's worth a lot of money, doesn't mean that the person next to you has even the capability of doing that, much less the drive or, the insane desire to excel and rise to the top of society. Most people don't have that kind of ambition. That's the reason why only a small percentage of the population rises to the top. Now, is it wrong that, people who have really valuable skill sets make the most money? No. Absolutely, you should be rewarded for the value that you're adding to society in general. But the problem comes in when you have focused so hard on your dreams and your ambitions and the things that you want for you that you stop caring about what the average person needs for their life. And that's why socialism continues to be something that bubbles up throughout society, and it's why all these people are able to manipulate everybody into continuing to want to try it, because the capitalist system, the pure capitalist system that people who have succeeded in that system are really trying to push, doesn't serve everybody. It doesn't make it so that everybody can have something. Because as more and more people make more and more money, they're taking the money that could go to people who need that money to live a basic freaking life, and they're building their super yachts out of it. And it's hard for anybody to sit there and look at this rich person building a super yacht for themselves that could pay the salaries for, 100 or 1,000 people for years. You look at the excess of that and you're like, socialism. Hey, we need to take from these rich people who are just wasting all of this money on themselves when they could be helping other people. This is the problem that I believe in constitutional freedom. I believe in the Constitution as it is, in the spirit of the Constitution as it's written. I believe in individualism. I believe that individuals should be free to follow their dreams and live their lives the way that they want to. But at the same time, you can't completely ignore the fact that if you're hoovering up all the money that's available in the world, what's left for everybody else to have some kind of a dream for them to follow? So there is no good solution to this if you believe in individual liberty, because fundamentally it's wrong to go and tell rich people that they have to give up their money. But at the same time, I don't think that there's enough social pressure on these people to force them to, take a second look at what they're doing. And obviously, if there was a solution to that, we would be doing it already. But the biggest thing that we need to understand is that the reason why socialism and these other ideologies that are similar to it continue to pop up over and over again is because the people at the bottom can't do what the other people or what the rich people are doing. They just can't. They don't have, take away access to resources, they just don't have the mental capacity to do it. The average person does not have this crazy idea. And even if they do come up with an idea that might work, they might be afraid to try it. They don't have that natural ambition and drive to succeed, the risk-taking mentality that allows them to jump out there and try to do something and try to see that it works. And the people who have the survivorship bias who did that and succeeded completely ignore the thousands of other people who tried and failed, and there's a reason why it's a risk. It's not just, if you just go for it, it'll work out. No, there's lots and lots of people who tried really hard to make their idea work, and it just didn't, because either the idea itself was flawed, or maybe the idea was good, but it just wasn't the right time for it. There are so many different things that come into succeeding in a venture. It isn't just that you had the drive and tenacity to get it done. Like, there's plenty of people who had the drive and tenacity to get it done who still failed and wasted all of their life trying to go after something that just wasn't going to work. Luck is a massive factor, and you can't ignore the luck. If you are a rich person trying to tell people that they just need to work hard, you are ignoring the fact that you're rich because either you inherited it from someone else who got lucky, Or you yourself got lucky and it happened so long ago that you forgot that it was a lucky thing that gave you the opportunity to get where you are now. And if you are lucky enough to become rich, that's a blessing to you. That's not just your hard work. Yeah, you had to be hardworking for that opportunity to pay off for you. You know, there's plenty of people who have opportunities thrown at them and don't recognize it and just let it pass them by. But the lucky opportunity still has to come along for that to work for you. Luck is 100% a part of the component that allows you to become successful. And if you don't have the capacity to either, A, recognize the fact that there's an opportunity available to you, which most people fall into. It's not that they're dumb, it's just most of us don't realize that, oh, this is an opportunity I could capitalize on. So that's part of it. But then the other thing is that even if you recognize that this is a potential opportunity, almost every opportunity that's going to result in you becoming wealthy in some way requires some kind of massive risk on your part. And most people don't fall into the category of just high risk individuals. They're just not willing to do that. Why am I going to give up the little bit that I have now on the potential that I might get something great when the odds are I'm just going to lose everything? And that's where most people are. And then a large portion of the population just isn't capable of doing basic work, basic things. Only thing they're capable of is manual labor jobs, working with their hands, doing very basic, simple tasks. And the idea that those people don't deserve a reasonably secure and, enjoyable life, that's hard to accept, especially if you're like me and you believe in the idea that excellence deserves excellent rewards, but at the same time, there needs to be some compassion for people who aren't capable of doing that. And that's the problem that we have. Capitalism is the right philosophy, but there's a reason why our nation indulges in some socialist processes. Because the people at the top, before, the crazy rampant corruption, the people at the top understood that, if you don't take care of the bottom percent of your, the large bottom percent of your, the bottom of the pyramid, if you don't take care of the bottom of the pyramid, the country's going to fall out from under you. And too many people over the last 50 years or so have taken it upon themselves to take away from the base, to move most of the value up to themselves, and they don't understand that when that base collapses out from under them, they're screwed. And this is why you need to indulge in a tiny little bit of socialism, so that the people at the bottom at least feel like they can have happy, productive lives, and they have a future. And the moment you start making it to where they don't feel like they have a future anymore, this is why you get socialism being pushed as a heavy thing. This is why capitalism gets looked at as this horrible thing, because it isn't enough for you as an individual to become successful and make lots of money. You need power. You need control. You want to be a phone manufacturer who makes it so that, all the stuff that goes into this phone has to be my stuff, and you can't buy it from anywhere else, and you can't fix it yourself, and I'm going to take every dollar from you that I can because it's my property. You don't get any say in it. This is why people hate capitalism, because of companies like Apple and Microsoft and all of these monopolistic attitude people who think that it's okay to just take as much control as they can. And this is why we are where we are. So I just wanted to make a video real quick because I don't believe in socialism as an in practice thing, but the idea behind socialism makes sense. Every person is unique. Every person wants to have hope for their life. And if the systems in place remove the ability for people to have just even basic dreams of, having a place to live and putting food on the table, having a family and doing all of the basic things that human beings want to do, everything's going to fall apart. So there is no perfect solution. There is no one system that's going to work. And just because a system works for you specifically doesn't mean it's the best system for everybody. There has to be a little bit of give and take. And, if you are a super rich person, I highly suggest you start thinking about the give part a little bit more. Because if you continue to take from people and they have nothing left, the only thing they have left to do is to bash you over the head and take what you have. And it will get there if you don't figure it out. So that's all I wanted to say. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Head over to the gaming channel to help us reach 10,000 subscribers over there. And I will see you for the next one.